What's up, print fam? Welcome to the almost weekly podcast about all things print, promotional products, and education, history, and entertainment. Because Gene is our entertainment today. I'm Darren, founder of the Print Fam, and we have Gene Hamsey, CEO of FireSprint. Is it firesprint.com? Is it FireSprint? Is it FireSprint Printing? Because I see it
Yeah,
different
yeah.
everywhere. What is the
That is
official name?
that is fair. That is fair. I almost always just say FireSprint. But we did have a moment there where we just kept saying firesprint.com because we were trying to drive people to this. When you add first of all, thank you so much for having me on again. I enjoy this, but now I'll get into this, and this is a branding moment maybe, and maybe somebody can learn something from our like trying to figure this out. But I believe when you add a .com to the end of something, it is almost like a mini call to action, right? So it's like it's the name and the way to get a hold of us or to learn more about us all in one phrase, right? And so when we were doing a lot of trade show exhibiting, I like to add the firesprint.com part because it like on a list of vendors, firesprint.com, it's like, well, I don't even have to go to their booth. I can just check out firesprint.com, and that like serves the same purpose in some respects, right? Um, Firesprint is like just the that's the actual name. We are technically Firesprint Incorporated, Firesprint Inc. with the official name, and then Firesprint Printing is yeah. Some of the guys here like to call us Firesprint Printing because they feel like they need to explain who we are. I just have never felt that strongly about that. I think maybe that was kind of the first name. It's like the Facebook, and then you drop the because everybody just knows what Facebook is, right? So I don't know. Nobody knows
Well,
who Firesprint is.
I know where the name came from. Like, I know the origin stories, but maybe everyone else doesn't. So, for those that don't know, what is the origin story of your name?
Yeah, so I'll try and do this quickly. Back in like 2007, we were Target Omaha Marketing, and we were Target Omaha Marketing, which we dropped the marketing part when we switched to the print side. And we're in Omaha, Nebraska, so that I don't, that's not that creative. Target Omaha Marketing, and we switched to wholesale in 2010, and we were having kind of this identity crisis, right? Where it's like we're not Target Omaha. There's nothing. We dropped the marketing, that still wasn't enough, and we're having this identity crisis, and then we switched to wholesale, and it's like we needed a new name. And so I went to bed. It was like a Saturday night, and I had a dream that I was registering the domain name firesprint.com. That was my geeky dream. And I woke up and I'm like, that's a cool name. And I checked and it was available. And so I went in Monday morning, and of course Mark and James, my partners, they're there, and we argued about everything except for that. And it was like the first big decision that we made that we were just all unanimously like, yeah, that's cool. Let's do that. So we changed the name to FireSprint. Um, I don't exactly know why that came to me in a dream, but we are FireSprint. Yeah, it works good though. It kind of like feels fast and aggressive, and we try to be as fast as we can.
I think you're pretty good at it. But you mentioning James and Gene, not James and Gene, you're Gene.
James and Mark.
James and Mark reminded me that Daniel is not here in the podcast episode. I'd be remiss to say that I thought Daniel was going to be on a cruise all last week, and then he would be tired coming. So this was just Gene and me to get you guys some more content and education. But Daniel is missed, and he's doing great. He's just, even though he's not here, he's probably still tired.
He definitely probably has the most organized brain out of the three of us. Like, I think he can get a clearer thought across. Maybe I'll speak for myself. I mean, but so we'll see how well we do today.
Daniel is really good. Like, I can word vomit to him, like,
Yeah.
my feelings, because, like, for lack of a better way to describe it, which Daniel would be able to articulate it, like, I feel very depressed a lot. And I don't know if depression is the right word or like what I feel, but I always, like, even this weekend, I was like, I feel overwhelmed. The window on one of our cars is stuck down, and I feel like I get ahead, and then I just have life hit me and expenses, and I have 5 kids, and it's like I never see him, and he's like, "You're doing great. Like, be happy. Kids are kidding. Everyone's fed. Like, you're awesome." And it's like, I really appreciate you saying that, but it's really hard in the moment, and he's so good at just, like, seeing and understanding, like, the real the realness, and he's really able to articulate it. So, love Daniel. Sad that he's not here, but I also thought he'd be tired and busy. I was making
Yeah.
assumptions.
That was a lot of fun getting to see you and him together and all of us just together at Printing United. That was a blast. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
getting
I
together, I think, is my favorite part of trade shows.
I will say, yeah, it's like a family reunion. That's like almost 100% of the reason why I go. I was like this time I'm like walking by the booths. I'm like, I don't really care. I'm just trying to find the people that I know and talk to them, and I love that. Um, I will say I have a few people in my life that do most of the worrying for me. And so I get pretty serious and I get angry and I go through the full range of emotions that a business owner goes through. But Mark is quite anxious, and so he does a lot of financial and things like that worrying for me. I feel like two people can't just be chewing on their nails in the same room at the same time. Somebody's got to like be like, this is going to work. And so I tend to find that. And then my wife also carries a lot of anxiety for me too. So it helps me be a little more happy go lucky, but that's just part of it. I mean, we all deal with those. It's like, where do I wake up, I think I'll go through a whole day. Tell me if you agree with this. I'll go through a whole day and the day will be pretty good and things like seem to connect pretty well. And then I'll wake up at 2:30 in the morning and my mind will be racing a mile a minute and I can't sleep. And it's not like I need to do this and I need to do that. It's like everything's going to come crashing down tomorrow or not tomorrow, but like soon. And like the anxiety like hits you and but it doesn't tend to hit me in the middle of the day. It wakes me up in the middle of the night if it's going to. It's not every night, but maybe once or twice a week. I feel that way. I don't know.
And I feel that way most of the time. And it's not necessarily like, oh, I got to get this done, but something's always on my mind with business. And I
Yeah.
just can't fall asleep because I can't get my mind to stop thinking about work. And like, I try to write it down or I try to email myself or try to put something on my to do list. And my mind just keeps like ticking of like, oh, what's the next thing? Or someone said this, so I'm thinking about this now. And should I change the pricing? Or how do I get customers? Or I also feel like this weird secondary pull because I feel like I'm supposed to educate people because I have this platform, but how am I supposed to educate people when I don't even feel like I'm successful myself? And it's this weird dynamic that I'm constantly going through that makes it hard.
Yeah, I think I'll say something that's not helpful here, but I think it's absolutely true. It's supposed to be hard. If it were easy, you'd have no business, right? Like the point of business is solving problems for like as owners, the point of it is to solve problems for our team, our employees, the any shareholders that we have in our business and absolutely our customers, right? And so like it's supposed to be hard. Um and like I said, I realize it's not helpful, but like I it helps me to kind of like step back and say, you know what, this is supposed to be hard. And um I think, Darren, I think why so many people love your content, why you have like over 14,000 subscribers is because you get people like me and I'm on and I know people like our content on our FireSprint channel and things like that. But I don't tend, since I have partners and whatnot, I don't tend to share my biggest struggles. If Mark and I or James and I are disagreeing or I'm having a hell of a time like trying to convince one of my partners to do something, or I feel like they've screwed up, or I feel like I've screwed up and I've let them down. Um, we don't get real public about those kinds of things. And so you are probably the closest thing, and I even know you keep certain things close to the vest, but you're probably one of the closest things to just like open and out there the real challenges that people face. And we face those, we all face those problems, right? I think, and that's why it's so relatable because it's um, but as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we're supposed to like be this beacon, this light. It's like we're doing it, right? We've got this figured out. I've got to stay strong for my team and I can't like worry about or I have to worry about the image that my customers portray of us. And we need to be stable, um, and you break all those barriers down. You just say, "Forget it. I'm gonna share my feelings right here." And I commend you for that. I think it's incredible, and it just does not surprise me one bit that you'll just get on and talk about how hard something is, and you'll get thousands of views and hundreds of likes and everything else from that because it's like, "Yeah, he's going through the same thing I am." Right? So, I think you're very inspiring for that.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think that's honestly a really good transition to one of the topics that we wanted to cover of, like, externally, like, even when you guys first reach out, like, you guys are a big supporter, a big sponsor of the channel. This episode is not sponsored. I just really like you guys and just hashtag not sponsored. Um, but from an external perspective, like you guys look like a big company. Like you have all your crap together. You have this beautiful e-commerce website that just functions and just brings orders in. And you guys talk about on your YouTube channel, oh, we got so many orders today. Like it looks like the epitome of success. And a lot of smaller people like myself, it's like, oh, I want an e-commerce website. I want people to just go online and order stuff. And I want to talk about like the the dirty side of it, like, that's not the right way to say it, but, like, the hard side of it, the reality side of it, because, like, I know you guys use on print shop for your platform, but I wanna go into more of, like, the struggles of actually operating from the e-commerce side, because I think people, like, put that on a pedestal of, like, this is the end all be all, this e-commerce platform that does everything, and it's the epitome of success, and if I build it, they'll come. But, like, you've been doing this for 10 years. You've gone through lots of changes and stuff. Can we talk a little bit about, like, the e-commerce engine?
Yeah. So, um, it, I think more than anything, like what has brought us success. First of all, thank you for saying that we look like we have it all put together because I assure you internally, I've got somebody standing outside my door ready to yell at, this isn't working, this is broken kind of thing. Um, but for the vast majority, like the orders do flow. It is okay. We do process credit cards every day. Like it works. It's really easy to get stuck on those little things though, especially internally. But and I know my team has worked very hard and myself too, very hard on getting that like to flow. Um, the dirty side of e-commerce, I would say, is that most companies probably shouldn't do it. Um, and this is, and we can discuss this, but if you walk through a scenario with me, right? Like we have, um, you've got let's say you have 100 customers and your goal is to like turn on this e-commerce website so that they can place reorders through your website, right? I hear that a lot. I want to set up so that the simple stuff just goes right through our website and the complicated stuff, we're still going to do that. And we're going to do that with a salesperson or anything else. I want to take the easy stuff and automate that away. And then let's just focus on the big stuff. And I even thought kind of the same thing when we initially set up. The challenge is you get that one customer and let's say you've got a big customer and they're paying a good number of your bills and then you convince them to start buying certain products through your website. And that's awesome, and they do that until they run into that variation that they can't buy through your website. So we sell a lot of yard signs, so I'd say, you do your yard signs through the website, but then they're like, "Well, I wanna add grommets to the yard sign." And you don't set the grommets up as a product because you've never sold them like that before. And so now that order suddenly goes offline. So now this is an emailed in order that you're processing. You don't want to lose the order. So then like your customers confused as to when to place the order through the website and when to actually email in their order. And what you're going to find is your customer is going to use the path of least resistance. And so I think they'll start emailing all orders in after they might try on mine for a little bit, but then you're gonna find that if they're successful, I say this all the time, like if if your customer is successful, if they're good at running their business, if they're profitable, they don't want to spend all day on the phone with you, right? They want to call you, email you, go to your website, whatever it is, connect, solve a problem, and then move on to go making money. right? And so, like, that path of least resistance is probably gonna divert back to an email or a phone call, because when they want something custom, they're gonna wanna do it that way. You'll notice that the really successful e-commerce brands out there, the big ones, if they don't do it, they don't do it, right? Like, you can't go to Vistaprint and get custom sizes or custom shapes or things. I haven't actually been on Vistaprint for a long time, but like, they stop at a certain level of customization, and then they do not go outside of that. And FireSprint, we're the same way. We stop at a certain level of offerings, and we don't go outside of that. We have a rule of thumb: if I can't explain it in 2 sentences, we don't sell it. And that doesn't work with a lot of business models. And I'll tell you, we have referred or shut off millions of dollars in business because it just didn't flow through our system. It didn't connect through our website. It required us to rebuild a bunch of custom products, et cetera, et cetera. So I've had clients that we were working with for years, printing a certain type of styrene or a certain style of product or something else, but it was like, I can't replicate this. And so they're emailing in their orders all the time. And my team is confused. They start to eventually they get to a point where they're like, I don't want to deal with an emailed order. Why can't we just build this for the client? And I'm like, we can't build a custom product for every single client's expectation. It becomes too much to manage. And so we end up letting those customers go. Right. And that was a business decision that we've made over and over again. Back in 2022, we said 100% of our orders have to go through our website. And we actually built our internal MIS system so that it could not process an order any other way. So then, I basically had the sales team, James and his team, if they wanted to accept a custom order, we're like, well, we've got to figure out how to build a product then. Right. And that takes all this time and effort. And so we tended to kind of push that stuff away. I hope I'm not rambling too much, but it's not. Most people I talk to who want an e-commerce website, they think it's going to be this auto magic like bullet that they're going to fire off, silver bullet that's going to just like take care of the problems, and their customers are somehow going to understand that. If I'm going to order business cards or yard signs or something very simple, I'm going to order that through the website. But if I still want like that complex $25,000 job, I'm going to email and we're going to talk that out. And your customers get confused. They don't understand, you know, where to place the order. And so then you fight this internal battle where you still have to have salespeople custom quoting jobs. And then you also have to have somebody who has like this development mindset to keep your website running. And most of us, even large companies, we don't. I have 38 people and $8 million in revenue. I don't have the resources to like do both sides of it. Right. And so it's my opinion that you pick one and you lean in and you go hard on one concept, right? So you're either going to get all your work through your website, or you're going to offer a high level of service and do everything custom and do it all via email. And it's not to say that you can't simplify things and make things simple and use all kinds of electronic tools, but I don't know. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, and, like, it makes me like, we joke about DNS in the Facebook group all the
Yeah.
time, and it kind of, like, reminds me of, like, me, but in the physical. Oh, like, I have a customer, they want this need, so I'm gonna buy this next piece of equipment. Like, I haven't built the system, I haven't built the process, I haven't built the sales flow, I haven't built anything around it. I just now
Yep.
have this fixation on this next piece of equipment, and, like, it's put me in a really hard spot.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm like, externally, I look at other companies, and it's like, I I will be really close to hitting $1 million this year. I'm not like, it'll be somewhere between, I think, 900 and 1 million based off of like my track record for the year.
Sure.
And
That's awesome.
I think I will have maybe a couple $1,000s in profit. And the reality is I have myself, Jacob, and Alan. And Alan is in the Philippines, so he makes not a lot of money for American wages, but he makes a lot of money for Filipino wages.
Mhm.
Jacob is well paid, and then for my position, I am not well paid, but I'm compensated fairly. Um, Basically, I pay myself the same as Jacob, even though I should pay myself more. But the profit does, like, the I should say the expenses do at least cover my wage. So like it's not like,
Mhm,
oh, I'm paying myself from the profit. Um, but like for simplistic sake, I'm roughly $1 million business with 3 employees. And when you look at those numbers, most of the time it's like, oh, well, most businesses that are doing $1 million have significantly more people, like 6 to 8 people typically. But when I was talking to my brother about it, he was like, well, yeah, but the problem is you have too much equipment. Your equipment sits idle most of the time. And the money that you might be paying towards an employee is being paid on lease or loans or some sort of expenditure related to the equipment.
mhm,
And it basically it turned into this field of dreams. Oh, if I buy it, then I'll get the customers rather than like slowly saturating the the pieces of equipment. Because this weekend I was thinking a lot about my pen business. How can I do better? Do I need to lower the prices and go for more volume? Do I need to change the offering, change the packaging in some way to make it more enticing, more appealing? And I went through all the numbers, and based off of the amount of square footage that it takes in my shop, how much the machine costs to purchase, to replace, to maintain, I lose 30 cents per pen that I sell
mm,
if I look at it from like that perspective. Now,
yeah,
granted, that's fully saying that my business is supported by pens, which it's not because I have other things, but that's looking at it from the eye of, oh, if I want my whole business to be supported on pens, if I want my whole business to be supported on my e-commerce platform, then like a lot has to change to get there. A lot
mhm.
has to change to make it effective and useful. And I think that's a lot. It's a very similar like way to look at like the e-commerce or the web to print, because that is such a it's such a hot like, oh, the web to print will solve all my problems.
So I think, and Alex Hormozy, I don't know if you know who he is. He's a YouTube personality. He's got like a $250 million business and talks a lot. Anyway, he addressed something along these lines that I think is relevant. He talked about how this is really common. I mean, really, I would say about half of his YouTube channel and content is devoted towards getting people to stop doing the next thing, right? Just like double, triple, quadruple down on what you're doing that is making you money. So you find something that makes you money, you just do of it until you can't do it any other way. And that's actually how you make money. It's not the next new thing, the next new thing. But the reason why so many of us can't do that, can't just do what we need to do to make the money, myself included, is because, and I'll tell you how I got over some of this, but anyway, the it, it the next thing, whether it's starting the next business, I talked to so many of the people in Print Fam that have like 9 different businesses, right? The next business, the next piece of equipment, the next type of customer, the next product, whatever it is that you're gonna add has this like ramp up of excitement and success. And us entrepreneurs are like, that's our drug, right? We like
We're
feel that.
addicted to it.
We are. We're addicted to this next thing. And the idea of coming in day after day and running a laser engraver, or for us, there's like a screen printing equipment, a screen printing machine or something, drives most of us entrepreneurs nuts, right? I can go do this thing and I know this is going to make me 40 bucks an hour. I'm just going to run it, run it, run it. Eventually I hire somebody at 20 bucks an hour to run it. I keep the margin, I'll just do that and I'll be profitable. But it's just not as exciting as buying another piece of equipment, adding a product, building a website, whatever, like this next thing. And
I didn't mute my phone apparently.
Oh, is that your phone? Okay. Yeah. Um, there we go. And you know, and so uh we have this tendency to do that, to just move on to the next thing rather than like do the boring thing, which is the thing that makes us the money. And so that really all ties back to why I think most companies don't need a website. You've got something that's profitable. You've got this, you get an emailed order, you reply back with some basic information, they send you payment and you make a product for them. Like, why not do 10 times that? Right? Why not just take something and just push harder to do more and more of that? Well, you've got to overcome that part of your personality that's like, what's the next thing? What's the next big thing? Right. And that's just kind of human nature. That's we're always looking for the next bush full of berries, and I guess. But in all reality, we should be sitting there watering and cultivating and protecting, you know, this little patch of the farm here that is actually feeding us and growing that incrementally. I think all of our success at FireSprint, any of our success, I mean, we still fight it every day. We're still dealing with it. We took less pay this year than we did last year. That was hard for the three of us owners, right? Like our pay got cut because we've invested so much in equipment and growth this year. But every time we see that like profit come through, it really is. We just put our heads down. It was a year that we put our heads down, we buckled down, and we ran our equipment harder and faster and more of it than we ever did, rather than adding something new or a new process. And that tends to lead to growth. Now I'm lucky. I've got a fantastic. I have two fantastic partners, and one of them I'll call him Mark particularly. Like I have a Mark test in my mind, right? It's like, can I get this past Mark? Am I going to be? Because his like default answer is almost always, and I mean this in the best way, but it's almost always no. Like, let's invest in equipment. No, like I don't want to spend the money because I don't want to cut my paycheck next month, right? And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, how does this align with what we're doing already? How does this, stack on that rather than it's kept me from drifting off and doing just the next new thing a lot. And I would say more than anything, I just got lucky that we found each other.
Well, and I think as much as we joke about it in the print fan group, like that's a lot of like what the print fan group can help people with is it can
Yeah.
be their own mark test because
Yeah.
I have been trying to advocate people to not buy DTF printers
Yeah.
because of like the headache of them, the maintenance, the issues. Like there was a post that Daniel shared with me last week of someone had bought one from China and the white ink just spilled out all over the floor, but you can't get parts, you can't get service. Then like finally he fixed it and then came in the next day and it had happened again. Like there's something to be said about like finding something, being really good at that something, and then changing or adding. Um, and part of that, like I think that goes into well, like you guys used to screen print. You used
Mhm.
to offer one color, two color, three color screen print.
That was how we started. It was like all we did for a moment. Yeah.
Like why the transition to solely digital, or like was it space? Was it convenience? Like because I know screen printing theoretically is really cost effective as far as like operation wise, maybe not
Yeah.
labor wise, but like what was the like the thought or the process behind getting rid of the screen print line?
So there's traditional reasons why you would get rid of screen print, and I'll list some of those, and then I'll give you the real reason why we got rid of it. But a lot of shops are closing up screen printing because it's not it just lots of chemicals, so it's not as environmentally friendly as digital. There's just waste. There's more going down the drain. You know, we had respirators and we full body suits to mask up when we were cleaning screens and things of that nature. You don't have anything like that on the digital side. Um, that's so it's just an environmental, personal safety aspect. Uh, Second, of course, is it's screen printing is a little more of an art form. Digital printing is a little more of a science, I would say. And so, like finding good people to screen print, get them trained, dealing with off contact and screen tension, and just all these variables that kind of come together that are less repeatable in screen printing than they are in digital printing makes it hard to hire for screen printing. You have people who just go to the extreme end of like, there's all these levers and dials that you need to adjust on a screen printing machine, particularly for graphic screen printing. I'm not talking about textile. Textile is a whole different animal that I don't understand. But for graphic screen printing, this is like printing yard signs, corrugated plastic. A good screen printer, like we had a guy working for us for 10 years. He'd just go and just kind of touch things and dial it in, and suddenly the print would just start working. But it's like I couldn't document that. I couldn't put a gauge on there to show that we need to do this and this, where you can document those things with digital printing. So I completely understand why the process is dying. And then the tendency of of people wanting variable data, right? Like we do so many of our yard signs right now are like a quantity of one, where we'll do one yard sign for each student in a school or something. You can't screen print that. That doesn't make sense. But I'll tell you the big reason. Now, those all stacked up, and those are reasons why. And of course, the advantage of screen printing is it's just cheap, right? I mean, once we got the screens and you sink the cost of the screens in and you get a good operator, I could run, we could run 1,900 square feet per hour. I'd need $1 million digital printer to outperform a screen printer 5 years ago, right? It's coming down. Maybe you need a $700,000 digital printer now, but um, like in terms of square footage, like if the screen print made sense, if the design made sense, I could just kill it. I mean, that screen printing equipment was all paid for. Um, we could destroy a digital print. That said, the reason why, here's the juice. The reason why we got rid of screen printing was inconsistency, right? Screen printing is political printing, it's contractor printing, it's kind of corner campaign type yard sign campaigns and things like that, very simple yard signs, and those are highly, highly seasonal. And so the seasonality of screen printing made it hard for us to keep uh we'd lose 70 or 80% of our business sometimes, between a 3-month period, where we might do $100,000 in sales this month and $20,000 in sales the next month, and or 2 months later, maybe we drift down to that. And so to keep everybody employed and to try and stay profitable during those times, those huge dips, um, was just really hard. And then we've got digital that's growing, and we're just looking at it and it's like, yeah, it was painful. And we had a lot of clients that were just up in arms. They were just pissed that we drop screen printing, because the quality of a screen print, if you want a bright red stop sign, you can't get that on digital print like you can on screen print, right? Or an orange, or these bright colors. Like, screen is awesome looking, like when the design lends itself to it. Um, but it was like we're just managing the digital side, which is growing. Sticker is getting bigger. We're doing more and more banner, and then we're like trying to manage screen printing, where I've got, like, this week I don't have any work for my screen printers, and the next week I need you to work 60 hours, right? And going back and forth graphic screen like that was so inconsistent. It was just, we looked at it and we're like, this is harder than it needs to be. And that was another one of those scenarios where uh, I bet we lost maybe six or $700,000 worth of screen printing business, that, like, we lost over the course of a year, because, like, our clients started realizing this stuff isn't screen printed anymore, and they're like, no, we refund orders, because we weren't sneaky about it. We're like, we're going to print this digitally now, and it should be pretty good. And most of our clients were like, okay, that's cool, and we maintained our screen pricing for a little while. Um, but then we'd have people call us back and say, no, 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 this doesn't match anymore. It doesn't match the old colors, and we'd refund them, and say, I'm sorry, we're not screen printing anymore. And that was I mean, it was one of those things where it's like it brings our focus, it brought our focus in, it helped us grow. But at the moment, we 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 took a lot of business and just let it go because it
Yeah.
didn't fit.
So did the screen print stuff take up more physical space? Because I know that's a concern right now too, is that, like, you guys, it seems way sooner than it was. Like, I feel like it was only a couple of years ago that you moved, but it's probably been longer than that, but
22, 3 years. Yeah.
3 years. And, like, are you guys running out of space? You moved to a significantly bigger building. Like, what's was there any part of that
Yeah.
getting rid of that equipment
Yeah.
space
Yeah. I
concern?
mean, you're sitting there and you need to, yeah, we needed more space for whatever job we're doing on the digital side. And I'm looking at this screen printing equipment on a Tuesday that's not running. Like, I don't even have anybody over on that side of the shop. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense for us to keep doing this. And so, absolutely, it does take up a lot of space. Screen needs a whole bunch of support. Your digital printer, you have a digital printer and you've got a desktop somewhere that you you build a digital file in, right? Um, the screen print equipment, you still have the desktop, but then we're doing film printing. And then we'd need a screen burning area. We need a place to coat screens. We had a room, looked like a kill room or a slaughter floor, but it was, this purple room, because it's so much red, blue, and black, this dark purple, violet colored room, where we clean our screens. And you have kind of all this ancillary support equipment for screen printing. Um, and so, yeah, it did take up a lot of room. And it's just one of those things where it's like, well, we can eliminate this. Um, yeah, our MSDS book shrank when we got rid of all the screen printing stuff. Of course, you have to keep that stuff for a long time, but the active section of the book shrank. Um, yeah.
So with that now brings me to you and I recorded a video at Printing United that's going to be coming out about the vector feeder table. I think that correlates a lot into like some people. It's kind of like the web to print. People get stuck on something where they think a certain thing might be their bottleneck or another thing might, and it's not really the real problem.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit more like about that, about the bottlenecks in general that you guys are facing and that table or that
So,
area?
first of all, you should link to the book called The Goal. Have you read it?
I have not.
Okay, it's called The Goal. It's like a novella. It's a or a you just read it's a storyline, but it talks about essentially it's for manufacturing, but I mean anything works this way. It's the theory of constraints, right? And this idea that every business has a constraint. I firmly subscribe to this that every business has a current constraint. Whatever it is, there's one thing that is your biggest constraint. And then basically as a business owner, our job is to just go from one thing to the next thing, opening up those constraints. So as soon as you fix that bottleneck, you open up that constraint, it's moved. It's somewhere else. You go find the next one. Oftentimes it's marketing and sales.
I'm the constraint in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah. Oftentimes, actually, almost 100% of the time, it's the founder, right? It's the founder's capacity of not delegating away what they need to delegate away. But there's more specific constraints. But anyway, back to this vector feeder. So the vector feeder, that video will be cool when you show it. It basically picks up a board and loads it onto our Zoom cutter. So we, rather than having somebody walk around to the back of the cutter, pick up the board, set it on the cutter, and then walk back to the cutting end of the cutter and like dealing with the cut files and stacking and unloading the cutter. um I have somebody running back and forth, so we put this vector feeder on there and it takes a pallet of material, and it loads it kind of on a timed interval. It's communicating with the cutter, so it won't like double stack something, but it'll load it on a timed interval on the back of the cutter. And what we found is it increased our output. um uh, Percentages are funny, but basically it close to doubled our output on that machine. Um, Depending on the day, it's more than doubled. Like we've had moments where it feels like it's almost triple the output of that machine. And our bottleneck isn't actually on the load side. The reason why I didn't have a full buy-in on that is because people are like, well, I just walk over. It takes me just a minute to go over there and load the back end of the cutter. That's like the easiest thing that I have to do as an operator. And so my operators and everybody was like, this isn't it, right? That's not really solving the problem because the problem is on the sorting and the picking and like pulling stuff out of the skeleton and taking if you've seen a zoomed operate or your Suma, you got the skeleton around the cut, you got to take that, fold it up, put it in the trash can. And you're like trying to, if you have multiple jobs on there, you're like trying to sort out multiple jobs. That's what takes all the time. But what folks don't like, what my team didn't think about was by eliminating those steps and that motion to go to the back of the cutter and to do that, now my operators stay at the working end of the cutter, right? And so that's what's increased our capacity by like 200%. It's been huge, right? Double like the amount of output that we're getting on these machines. For two reasons. The obvious one is yes, it's keeping them on the working side of the cutter. They never waste time and motion transportation going to the back end of the cutter. But then second, it sets a pace. And so humans do not have a very good internal clock. We don't actually work, if you want everybody to row together, you've got to beat a drum or something like that, right? Or there's got to be somebody calling out the strokes on a ship. And or you're listening to music or something is setting a pace. Well, this cut the feeder sets the pace for the team. So it's like as soon as they're kind of like done, that next board is moved on and starts to cut. And so if they need to take a break, if they need to check their phone or use the bathroom or something like that, they have to hit pause to do that, right? Whereas before um, we set this up, uh, they would just not load the next board. And so I'd see guys, they want to change their podcast or something like that. They'd look at their phone, they'd adjust their podcast, and then they'd go load the next board. Now they'll make that adjustment on their podcast while they're waiting on the machine, if that makes sense, right? Because the machine is setting a pace. And so they still have this downtime where they've got time to adjust things, check something, maybe send a text, whatever. We allow our team to have phones on the shop floor. But it's synchronized with when the machine is busy and they don't have anything to do a lot better. And so we still have a Zune that doesn't have a stacker. And you definitely see that. You see it like there's just moments in between cutting where, somebody go ask somebody a question or something like that. And they'll do it after, before they go start the next board. And on the vector feeder machine, they do it while the machine is making a long cut more often.
So it kind of forces that cadence rather than
Yeah.
it being sporadic.
Yeah, yeah, it's like they do. They literally have to hit pause or it's gonna dump all their work onto the floor, right? And so that extra action of hitting pause, it's actually just faster to wait till the machine's done or gets into like this rhythm of it's cutting something where you're gonna wait. If a complex cut's gonna take a long time, it's like, that's when I'm gonna change my podcast. That's when I'm gonna send a text, right? That's when I'm gonna go talk to somebody else over there and ask if they can make me some boxes or something like that. Rather than, if we're just doing it on our own, it's just human nature, right? If we're just doing it on our own, like we'll finish up a project, maybe unloading the cutter, and then I'll go ask for help and then I'll go back and load the board. Where if the machine is kind of setting the pace, it's just a little more efficient, but nobody's moving any faster or working any harder. They're just more efficient.
So, like, do you guys have a screen that shows them what cut it is or like what process it is? Or is it more of like, oh, they see that it's not regular yard signs and it's going to take a while to do? Like,
Yeah,
how do they?
I think if they're timing things, I think it mostly is they just see the prints. So we do a lot of auction paddles and rally fans and things like that. And that's a good example of something that takes 4 or 5 times as long to cut. You can just look at the board and tell that, oh, the next three are going to take a long time to cut. So I've got a second. Um, but we do have we use a QR code scanning system. So as the boards are loading in, they're scanned with a QR code and it'll pull the jobs up in our system so that they can kind of see. We have two screens. We have one screen for Lumen and one screen for the Zoom Cut Center out there. And the idea is that the job will pull up the details about where it's shipping and, what they need to know will pull up on the Lumen screen and the cut pass will pull up on the Cut Center screen.
Well, we're getting pretty close to where we want to cut off, but I do like, I want this to benefit you guys. And so I want to talk about self promo points because I have probably the most self promo points in FireSprint history.
We do.
I have over 500,000 points. Why did you choose self promo points and or like what do people use them for?
Yeah. So the I really think, we get back to this shiny object thing that we talked about in the past. I really think most of us, FireSprint included, we don't spend enough time just doing the basics of like, for example, are you using yard signs and banners yourself? Do you have material? If you have a showroom, like, do you have customized products in your showroom that you can show people different sizes of things? And whether it's stuff we sell or any kind of print or promo, right? Are you handing out pens, right? If you sell a lot of pens, are you handing out your own pen with your own information on it? And so we call them self promo points because we want to encourage you to utilize those points to make your own sticker sheet giveaways or to make your own yard signs to put out or to anything of that nature, right? Just maybe run samples. Let's say, your customer, you really feel like you can close the sale if you run them a single sample of something. We'll use the self promo points to run a single sample on, I guess our dime, I suppose, rather than your own, get out there and do that. So the whole point of the whole system is to encourage people to do that. But they are generally earned at about 1% value. Um, and then you go to firesprint.com as you're earning them, you'll earn them automatically. You go into the self promo points section under my account, and you can redeem them in like $10 increments.
$10 increments, and it maxes at $50.
Yeah, which honestly, like, I'm Gene at firesprint.com. James is James at firesprint.com. Like, if you got a self promo thing you want to do, like, just email us and say, hey, I've got this thing I want to do. Send us the artwork and we'll help you out. We are always willing to help with self promo because we don't do it enough. You would be surprised at how little people do it in the industry. And it's like, isn't this what you do? It's kind of the old. I don't know if you've ever heard like the painter's house is never painted, and the mechanic's car leaks oil, right? Like, I mean, we're terrible
Oh,
at it.
I'm guilty of it.
Yeah, we are
Like,
too. And yeah, it's just I'd like to encourage. You got to get out there. You promote, do that, self promote more than like, if I could be so bold, like take more time. I'm not necessarily talking to you, Darren. You've got a lot going on, but like take the time to like double down on the things that you're doing rather than like looking for the next dopamine hit, which is a new product or something like that. Like, I think that's the breakthrough that needs to happen for us to all be more profitable. Is we kind of figure it out, and then we're like, okay, you know, what's next? Rather than can I do twice as much of the same thing? So
well, one thing Daniel tried to encourage me with this weekend was that it takes 18 months to typically realize the success of the past. So you have to be working at something for quite some time before you actually realize the growth or the impact that it's having, because it's the same thing with even self promo. Like, you can't expect to do one marketing campaign for yourself or for your customers and it to have the impact that you want. It has to be repeated. I think the statistic is something like 7 times someone has to see you before like they recognize you and or want to do business with you. It's
yeah,
something of that nature. It's a lot
yeah,
of
I hear that number a lot.
impressions,
Yeah,
which is why like I personally push utility based items where it's like that's why I love pens and I love tumblers and the things that's like are constantly in someone's face, because then
yep.
you get that exposure really, really quickly.
No, exactly. I think that's you're right on. Um, yeah, yeah, I could keep going.
Well, we will cut it off. Is there any last thing that you want to impose upon the people with your great wisdom of fire sprint, gene, and all things large format?
um, yeah, I would say I think there's a few people out there that are watching this podcast looking for some inspiration, trying to find their next level of profitability, trying to, how do I make it in this business? Or maybe you're up against the wall. Um, I really think most of you know what you need to do. I think it's probably something along the lines of pick up the phone and call every client that you have, or double down and get these jobs done faster rather than waiting till the weekend to print them right now. Whatever it is, there's you probably if you're in business, you probably have a knack, kind of a gut check feeling of what your constraint is, um, and if you feel like you're struggling, I would say it's probably I'm speaking from myself here. Like every time I feel like I'm struggling, I feel like it's not working. Like I double down on it and I realize anytime I've come to a solution, it's because I've gone back, gone to that, how do I just do more of what I know is working? It's boring. It is not a dopamine hit. Sometimes it's not what I want to do, but that tends to lead to the days, weeks, months, and years where I actually take home a paycheck. So I think you know what that is. If you're watching this, you know what it is. You don't need the inspiration. Just shut it off and go do it. That would be my
Well, well,
I
I
hope
just
that's
have to
not
test
too
it.
forward, but
Well, thanks for being here, Gene. I always love chatting with you and hanging out, and go do it. Get her done.
get her done. Get her done. Yeah. Thank you, Darren. I really appreciate you having me on. Anytime. I'm
Okay.
I'm welcome
Well,
back. I'd love to be back.
we'll see you guys in the next podcast.